It said, in menopause, ... Any questions? Menopause? I am too young for that.
Tamsen Fadal is an Emmy award-winning journalist and New York Times bestselling author of How to Menopause. With millions of followers on social media, delivering the information women desperately want to hear.
Menopause is inevitable, but suffering is not. Like, you do not have to suffer.
But this time, we're opening the door wide because her message isn't just for women. And Tamsen's brought the one man brave enough to sit in the hot seat, her husband, Ira Bernstein.
Oh, and he's a man of the pause. That's what I call him. Men who understand menopause.
I have one word: sweaters. Sweaters for the men.
Martin buys space heaters.
Well, I've learned how to learn.
It's a conversation where nothing is off limits.
What are 3 things that the life partner should never say?
On behalf of all men, I'm sorry.
And no question is too uncomfortable to ask.
And you have also spoken openly about how menopause can change intimacy and closeness.
This was probably the most shocking part for me.
Join hosts Martin Luther King III, Arndrea Waters King, Marc Kielburger, and Craig Kielburger for an unfiltered, eye-opening, hilarious, and deeply empowering conversation about menopause, unlike anything you've ever heard before.
Because now we're bringing men into this conversation because we have to, because we can't just pretend that
Welcome to My Legacy. Today's guest is journalist and health advocate Tamsen Fadal, who is shattering the silence around menopause, calling out the medical gaslighting, and using her own story to inspire millions of women to demand better. Tamsen, we're so excited for you to join us here today. And of course, on My Legacy, we always ask our guests to bring someone who knows them well and can share the inside story on their journey. Tamsen, would you do us the honor of introducing your +1 with you today?
Yes. My +1 is my husband, Ira Bernstein. We met about 7 or 8 years ago. We always argue over that. We met, and it's a second marriage for both of us. Ira is the co-founder of Debmar Mercury, which is a television distribution and producing company. And we got married. I got remarried at the age of 50, and he's my +1.
And I've had to accommodate being a +1 because I wasn't really used to that.
Oh, and he's a man of the pause. That's what I call him. Men who understand menopause.
Ooh. Wait, how long though? How long does it take for a man to gain that honor?
I know. It's taken him a long time. It's been 8 years.
To be fair, it didn't start 8 years ago. And if you're living with someone who wakes up at 7 to doing work and goes to bed at 11 still doing work, it's easier to... I don't catch on quick, but a lot of repetition, I eventually figure it out.
Sounds like me, huh?
Thank you.
Ira, we love that you and Tamsen have this beautiful midlife love story. What was it about Tamsen that made you say, that's my person?
I haven't told this to many people, but I think when we started dating and Tamsen was a journalist and she was, on TV every day, prime time, everybody said, oh, she's so beautiful and she's primetime news person and it's amazing. And we started dating and I lived in Los Angeles. I was flying back and forth quite a bit. And at some point she looked at me and she said, are you in love with me or falling in love with me because I'm a newscaster? Is that why? And I looked at her and I put my hand on her chest and I said, I'm falling in love with you in spite of the fact that you're So that sort of set the stage.
I love that. Well, Tamsen, you've had a remarkable career, of course, both as a journalist and as a newscaster to the point that you made, but also, of course, now as a women's health advocate. But your whole life has been spent asking questions, challenging the system. So can you bring us back, because this is My Legacy, we want the origin stories, back in your early days, that young Tamsen, when she was there a moment when she was asking questions or a hero in her life, someone who helped inspire her to set her on this path of always questioning?
Ooh, I don't know. It's interesting. I lost my mom at a young age, and she was she was a stay-at-home mom, but she wrote for the newspaper, like our local newspaper. So I think that she was always asking questions, but I don't know what it was. I think I was just really always curious. I mean, I think I even did that when I was young. I was constantly the one that, when they would have the report card, I've even looked back at some like, she's too talkative. She's always asking questions in class. Like that was my, whatever problem. Talks to everybody next to her. And so, but I definitely know that when I got into college, I was at the college newspaper at the time, and I was just fascinated by people's stories, and I couldn't get enough of them, and I loved how reporting and journalism could really change narratives and really, expose things and bring things to light. So I did a lot of investigative journalism early on in my career. I traveled overseas to Afghanistan during the war, and then eventually when I came to New York, I was doing more behind the desk. But I've just always loved stories, no matter what they are, just because I think that's the only way we change and learn.
Tamsen, let's talk a little bit more about your mom. I too lost my mom, although I was in my 40s and through cancer as well. And I always think about the fact of, I think it was Maya Angelou that said that no matter what your relationship is with your mom, that when they're no longer here, you will miss them more than you know. Your mom was suffering silently with menopause.
Yeah.
As she was battling cancer. But tell us a little bit more about your mom.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I probably know her maybe or understand her a little more now than I did then, because I didn't know what was going on. She was diagnosed when I was 14 years old with breast cancer, and she went through quite a bit. She went through a mastectomy and then a second one, and really fought for a long time. But what she always was very family. Like that was the most important thing to her. The only thing she ever wanted to do was really see us grow up, and be around us and have a larger family. And so that was a lot of what she instilled in me. If there was one thing she instilled, it was the importance of family and friends. There was no question about that. And I think that, her support is what made me feel like I could be very vocal, quite frankly. I mean, she allowed that questioning all the time, allowed that curiosity all the time. And that was something super, super special. But what happened when she went through breast cancer, which is what I didn't realize, is she would get hot all the time, be like just dripping, sweating, not be able to go to restaurants. We'd all laugh it off as a family, her included. And it wasn't until about maybe it was like 3 years ago, my dad and I were talking, and I said, he's like, do you think, I'm reading all this stuff about menopause, he was 82 at the time. He said, do you think that your mom was going through that because she was hot all the time and could never sleep and could never, like he was like, we were paralleling
Putting the
this.
pieces together.
Yeah, putting the pieces together. And so I think I dedicated the book to her because I had no idea. That was never a word used. That was never anything we talked about growing up, which I think happened with a lot of women and their moms. And yeah, so I think I felt close to her in these later years because she died at 51. So when I passed 51, it was a big mark. It's like I don't have my roadmap anymore of what happens next. So I've felt that closeness more than I ever have.
And it sounds like she fought to see you all grow up. And once you were set, she's like, okay.
Yeah, she really did fight. It was a 6-year battle, and she did everything from, traditional to experimental to anything that she could do to be there longer. And I've asked myself, it's interesting you say that, because I've asked myself that question, like, would I have done all the things that she did when I had a diagnosis like that and then got a second diagnosis, to keep doing that. But that's what was important to her was, she really appreciated life.
Did you read Judy Blume growing up?
Of course.
Because I have this theory. You and I are around the same generation. That we were, the Judy Blume generation. We must increase our bust. We were the generation. Yes.
I love it.
Yes. And we were the generation, I think, that really kind of bought into the popular culture, even the whole dialogue of a menstrual cycle and saying the word period and and I think our same generation, we're the ones that are also having these conversations that have not been had before with now perimenopause and menopause. Like so here's my thing to you as well. We have to find a chant, like we must increase. We have to find some kind of menopause chant.
We do that.
Yeah, so
I will do that with you.
Okay, so let's figure it out. But but I want to go to the moment that so many of us women dread, right? You're on a plane, you're flying on a plane. Ira's next to you, just relaxed and scrolling. Just looking through the movie options, and then you get an email from your doctor. So can you talk us through that moment and what went through your mind?
Yeah. That email that I got it was in my patient portal, and it said, you got a notification, bing, in your patient portal. And I opened it up because I had done these blood tests, and it said, in menopause, ... any questions? And that was it. And that was like the diagnosis, the beginning of this, this menopause? I am too young for that. I am 49. This is not possible. So what went through my head were a couple of things. One is I'm too young for that, even though the average age is 51, so I wasn't too young for it. 2, I don't know anything about this. And 3, I can't have children anymore. And I said that to Ira. And the irony of that is I had already made that decision in my life. We had already had that conversation in our lives. But the finality of that and the fact that it was no longer, my option or my something I could do, I think that was a very pivotal, there's something about that I don't think I've talked about very much, and I don't know that many of us have, but it's a transition. There's no question about that.
And I like what you just said too, that we feel like we don't have that option. Throughout our childbearing years before then, we have the option, in some way or level, but it is something about feeling like that option that, that is, and we didn't have a say.
Yeah. It's like that. Wait a minute. I didn't say that was okay for that to be taken from me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need your help here. We have about 1.5 million active followers on social media on the My Legacy platform, including hundreds of thousands of men. And so we need your assistance and coaching, if you will. So Ira, going back to that plane moment when Tamsen sits next to you and has that conversation, and then you respond. What was your reaction in that moment? And going back to your former self, was that the right reaction? And or coach all these hundreds of thousands of men, including myself and Martin and Craig, in terms of how does one respond to their loving partners if they have that conversation?
Well, because we were on the plane doing what you described very accurately, I didn't know. I just knew it was something she was upset about. And the only thing I knew to do for sure was stop watching Jason Bourne for the 18th time.
Good call. I can take that advice. I can appreciate that advice. I got to write that down. 1 second.
Stop watching Jason Bourne and listen. And I mean, kidding, but it's sort of, I knew she was upset, but I'm not professing any great knowledge of, oh, well, you don't have to worry. This is what's happening. Like, I didn't know anything. And so I just knew she was upset, and it's just about listening. It's just about hearing what's going on and struggling with not having the solution. Because as men, that's our instinct is, if you have a headache, I'll get you Tylenol. If you have this, we'll do that. Like, just stop being upset, and we want to fix it and move on and go back to watching Jason Bourne. And so that's what we want to do. And it's not so simple. And so it just involves being patient and listening.
I'm curious, was it shocking for you? Because I know that when Martin and I talked about it, Martin was, I think, kind of shocked, right? It almost was like that moment from Father of the Bride 2 when Diane Keaton tells Steve Martin, he's like, and she's like, oh, I think I'm going through menopause, and he was like, my mom went through menopause. I think you were, I think it also was a shock to you, I think it was fair to say, when we started talking about it in our home, right? So were you?
I guess, but it was just I'm more whatever less aware is maybe an advantage in some ways if you're aware that you're less aware. So I just added it to the list of stuff I don't know anything about and said, "Oh, so this is happening."
But did you feel like it would symbolize somebody older? Like, I think that's the question. Like, what did it
Not really,
symbolize?
because I was more, perhaps at that moment, more comfortable with the decision of not going to have children. So I wasn't looking at that as something was taken away. I was like, not cavalierly, but maybe a little too, we've already had that discussion, so what's the difference? Like, I'm not thinking about any other symptoms, anything else. It's just the finality of that decision biologically had a big effect on you. And it didn't dawn me. Biologically, I was like, well, okay, so what else? Like, so can we fix it now? And is there something? I'm looking at my watch. We can stop by the pharmacy on the way to the airport.
You've both just proven why this book is a massive success, why you have a cult following, why millions and millions of Americans, women and men, clearly need your message.
So Tamsen, some men might sense their partner is going through menopause, but have no idea how to bring it up. What's your advice for starting that conversation without her feeling judged or misunderstood?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I especially like the not feeling judged, because I think that we judge ourselves already a little bit. I mean, I definitely did. And I felt like I didn't even understand what was going on myself, because we, to your point, haven't talked about this. We talked about it. I talked about a lot of other things. We have not really, this wasn't a word I even said in news. I did news for all these years. I certainly never said perimenopause, and definitely don't remember saying menopause. I think it can go a couple of different ways. I think it can be a if somebody's not comfortable with it, it could be a conversation that is, listen, I was reading, looking, listening to this podcast, and there were the woman talking about some of these symptoms she's dealing with, like not being able to sleep and feeling like she's not like herself. If you are ever feeling like that, or I noticed maybe you've felt like that, maybe it's something to look at. I think that because the good news is we have so much information out there, right? So I think bringing it up that way is a nice way to do it. And then I think also making sure that it's not oh gosh, are you in menopause, or is this your hormones talking, or what is this? Because I think we've done that for a really long time in this, in how we talk about this, right? We've laughed about it, we've joked about it, and while there are some really funny, crazy things that come with it, there's also the shame that I think that a lot of women have have felt like they had to feel during this time, because it means like our better years are behind us, and maybe if we're not in our reproductive years, we're not as viable as somebody that's younger than us. I mean, there's no question that finally this time in life is getting attention I think it's deserved for a long time.
Yeah, Tamsen, just on that one, I was a good student. I did read, and it was very helpful, by the way. I'm going to give a big shout out to your a guide or a kit for menopause for men. So thank you. I appreciate it on behalf of three men around the table at a minimum. Very, 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 very grateful. And in your guide, you speak, and you have also spoken openly and candidly about how menopause can change intimacy and closeness. So could you help us understand that, and how did you two navigate that within your relationship and create connection beyond the physical?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's always a really one of the tough conversations to have, because when we talk about all the symptoms of menopause, and there's like over 100 symptoms of menopause, really, that, it affects joint pain and sleep and weight gain and hot flashes and brain fog. But low libido is a big one, and painful sex is a big one. And I think that both of those are difficult, because I don't know any doctor that I've ever gone into before this conversation happening saying like, how's everything going, with your sex life or with intimacy, or, is everything normal there, whatever normal means. So you don't really know who to talk to about that part, right? And I think that it's really important that partners have this kind of conversation and outside the bedroom, not inside the bedroom, but be able to open that line of communication, because during menopause, when you have a reduction in estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, that leads to things like painful sex because it's not as comfortable, because all over your body you're dry, and it leads to a lack of libido, quite frankly, where you're not interested. And I think it leaves a lot of partners thinking like, well, what happened? At this time you were, excited about being intimate with me, and now you don't even want me to touch your back because you don't want it to lead to anything, those are real conversations that we've had with women all across the country. I was where was I? I was in my late 40s and you were in your 50s.
Yeah.
And
Starter.
yeah, I mean, I felt that. I felt like I had zero interest. I went from us dating and having like this fun, happy, great, let's go have a glass of wine and get together, to like, don't come near me, don't touch my back, don't look at me, don't look at me weird. And it had to be conversation so that I felt like I was safe having a conversation with him and not feeling like it meant I wasn't sexy anymore, sexual anymore, attractive. I was already feeling not attractive because of a lot of these other symptoms. And we really did have some long conversations about it. So we both felt comfortable, and he didn't feel rejected, and I didn't feel like I was disappointing him.
Fabulously helpful. Ira, from your side, what was that like for you, and how did it test your relationship, and how did you show up differently as a partner?
Well, I think over time I learned to rub her back and not expect sex. But we make fun of it, but that's really, it's easy to say, it's hard to do. It's one of those things. It's like, yes, it's about conversation. It's about being more open about things that you were normally not open because it was just natural and you were just doing things and enjoying things. And it's about having the conversation before. It's about, using other things and all the stuff that's in the book and having that.
The why.
Why do you want to do this now? And how do you prepare for that in this stage versus what you used to do?
It's interesting we talk about the lack of conversation. So confession. I'm the youngest person. This is not the confession. I'm the youngest person around the table. So this is the first time that I've actually ever had a meaningful conversation about menopause in my life. Because we're just not at that stage yet in our relationship.
Yeah,
and so I imagine for a lot of men, this is the first meaningful time that they've listened to an in-depth conversation about menopause. So I'm going to say this question a little tongue-in-cheek, but also full seriousness. Like, Tamsen, what are 3 things that the life partner, the husband, should never say? No, I mean this with sincerity. And then what can we actually say that is helpful?
I think it's a really great question, because I do think that because we haven't had the conversation, because women have just started a real learning curve, unfortunately, because we have to go into doctors that have not been informed. There's many doctors by their own admission say they didn't get this training in medical school. So the onus is on the woman to go be a partner, or to be educated when they walk into the office with exactly what's going on with them, so they're not dismissed. So it's a really fair question, because now we're bringing men into this conversation because we have to, because we can't just pretend that this happens in a vacuum. I think that the one thing, and while we do, we do our, on social media, I have my fair share of having fun with these things, but at the end of the day, we make sure that it's never in a shameful way. So in a way like, is this your hormones again? Like, is that what this is? Or, are you ever going to want sex again? Or, what is it going to take to get this? Like, how long does this last? Because the truth is, menopause is one day. Everything before that, leading up to that, is perimenopause. And that can last anywhere between 4 to 10 years of hormonal shifts. All the guys at the table are like, all right, I'm out.
I wasn't going to answer for your wife, but I was thinking that with that question but there's perimenopause, which could be like up to 10 years before. Martin said, What I love is like these guys are like swans. Like at the top, they're very, but I know like under the table, they're like, oh, like they're just like, yes, like.
I love it. It's so true. But so the perimenopause is a long period of time where there could be hormone fluctuations. So it would be changes in your cycle. It could be anxiety. It could be mood swings. It could be what we now refer to as brain fog, where you walk into a room, you can't remember what's going on. That might make him the craziest about me. Is that I'm like in the middle of my sentence and then I stop and I go, what was it? what was I talking about? And he thinks I'm just not paying attention. But the truth is that, I mean, some of it might be that, but the truth
Not a zero.
But the truth is that there is actually, when you lose estrogen, you have estrogen receptors in your brain. And I'm not a doctor, just so everybody out there knows, but I have researched this with 2 documentaries and a book, and those estrogen receptors, it changes during that time in perimenopause, and you can come back out of it on the other side. But there are things that I can understand would be frustrating to be around, because they're frustrating to deal with. And then I think the things to say. Do you want to handle this part?
No, please.
No, Ira, like, a little men's advice is
One
welcome.
thing is, don't pretend you know something when you don't. So let her go.
There's a life advice in that statement, not just on menopause. But thank you.
Yeah, that was all encompassing.
We bridge gaps.
But I think that the important thing is, like, how can I help? Like, where can I fit in to help you through this? Whether it could be something as small as she feels like she's got to go, start moving a little bit, or working out, or, maybe go partner with her on that. Or the patience of, maybe she's tired because she's not sleeping. Maybe it's the air conditioner that you're fighting over, but just being understanding of some of those things.
I know Martin is he's given up on that fight.
I did notice Ira nodded also a little bit on that one.
It's just like, he's like,
Yes. Martin, you're usually so engaging in these conversations, even very silently taking in this information. I'm very impressed.
I've learned how to learn.
Well done.
I have one word. Sweaters for the men.
yeah, exactly.
Like, nobody ever talked about it with my parents' age, but many years ago, my parents would be in Florida or something, and my mother was always hot and my father was cold. So I go to visit them, and my father answers the door, and it's like Florida. It's 90 degrees. And he answers the door, and he's wearing shorts and like a golf shirt and a snorkel coat. Like, Dad, like, what are you doing? He goes, it's just easier. So I look at that as life advice from father to son to whoever else.
Well done.
It's just easier.
Guess what we do in our house?
I get it.
Martin buys space heaters.
Well,
Oh,
I think that's just me, though. I don't think it is.
Okay, yeah.
no, it's not.
So there you go. So men, you can buy you a space heater as well. And just plug it in right next to you, and everyone's happy. So Tamsen, what I love about you is that you weren't just looking for answers about what was happening to you, but like you're on a quest, for all womankind. And you were determined to share what you learned with everyone else, with men and with women. You launched a podcast interviewing medical experts that most women don't have access to. And for your very first episode, you sat down with none other than Halle Berry, right? Talking about making menopause sexy. I mean, she was another woman that was refusing to stay silent about menopause. So what surprised you the most about that conversation?
Yeah, that was like such an honor, first of all. But I think what I loved about the conversation, when I look back, her honesty and risk taking, quite frankly, in the career that she's in, is huge. And I think that sometimes that's glossed over, because it is a risk in Hollywood to be like, hey, I'm in menopause. You might get a smile at the front end, but somebody might be like, okay, she's aged out. And she was not afraid of that conversation and talking about that. And that's made a huge impact. I think the other part for me, as I look back on it now, because is what I love is that this has brought all women together in a way that I have never seen before. Like, women from all walks, like on what earth would I ever be sitting down with Halle Berry having a conversation, about anything? This coming together of the importance of community, because the only way that this message has moved, like it's moved from where we were 5 years ago when I was having doors slammed in my face about the documentary and no one wanted to talk about it, to being told that they didn't want me to do this on television, to please stop bringing it up in the newsroom, to where he's sitting there with Halle Berry talking about it has been like just such it's an unbelievable movement of women talking, and so that's been the real incredible part of it, I think now. But her story of being misdiagnosed and her story of like in a relationship, being told like, not doctors not knowing what's going on, and that she was told that it was, might be herpes and it's menopause or perimenopause. It's unbelievable. Like it's maddening. And so that conversation with her and her honesty is very motivating to me, quite frankly.
Well, it was sort of a great equalizer for a lot of women, because you're saying Halle Berry clearly has the access to whatever expert advice there might be, to whatever the top doctor in whatever the field it is. It's, and if she has that issue, I mean, when I go see Tamsen speak, not every speech, but a lot of them, and I'm in the back somewhere, and then they do the Q&A. And literally I think it was San Francisco, and a woman who was so grateful for the information, she raised a hand and she said, I'm a firefighter in Marin County. And so you have a woman who's a firefighter in Marin County, and then you have Halle Berry. And I think that's, the range of, because it affects all women. It doesn't matter whether you're a firefighter or whether you're a mega movie star.
Yeah, and at that point, the fact that it does affect all women is a very obvious yet really powerful statement. We're all very passionate about health and wellness, and we've talked extensively both on the podcast and externally about the fact that most doctors aren't trained sufficiently about the issues of nutrition. Tamsen, we also love the fact that in your documentary and in your book, you talk about the fact that doctors are not trained sufficiently in understanding the issue of menopause. So first of all, thank you for sharing that. Yet, of course, more than half the population will go through this. So women are often perhaps not educated properly by their doctors. Perhaps they're not consulted adequately by their doctors, even gaslit by their doctors. So what words of advice, what do you tell them when the doctors who are there to help support them through this process aren't educated themselves?
Yeah, I this was probably the most shocking part for me. After I got that diagnosis or whatever that was from the doctor, I went, in my patient portal, I was like, oh boy. And so when I dove into it and realized that many doctors, and this is by their admission and by statistically what they've talked about, get a little bit, if anything, of training on menopause. And a lot of it is because there was a study 20 years ago that was a women's health initiative that had headlines that were very, very scary, talking about hormone therapy. But it's also because midlife health, quite frankly, just hasn't really been a priority. Once women got past their reproductive years, we kind of fall off the map here. It doesn't continue on into that next chapter. So it's been important for me to make sure that women feel when they walk into a doctor's office and a doctor says something like, oh, it's all part of aging, tough it out, or, all women are going to go through this, or they're dragging their feet, or they're outright refusing to have these conversations, that a woman does, two different things. Make sure she knows what those symptoms are that she has, and make sure she knows she does not have to wait through and suffer until those symptoms get bad enough to seek some type of treatment. And whether that treatment is in the form of hormone therapy, or whether that treatment is in the form of, figuring out lifestyle or non-hormonal option, which we're seeing more come on the market, I just want to make sure that they are working with doctors that base their decisions on facts and not what they, think what they might have heard 20 years ago. And that's really the reason for all of these resources, is because I feel like the more women have access to them, the more that they can do a little pushback if they need to with their doctor, or find another doctor that they can talk to about it and feel confident in their answers.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into those resources, because I know that you have interviewed 42 experts for your book, and countless more on your podcast. Is there one medical expert that you've interviewed whose advice was a game changer for you personally?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think two. But I will start with Dr. Sharon Malone. Like she has been somebody who has really drilled down and explained it all to me in a way that makes me feel safe. So I'll say that first because she has such an excellent way of taking really hard conversations and making them clear and understandable. And she was the one that said to me, you know, like, menopause is inevitable, but suffering is not. Like, you do not have to suffer. And I think that really was, and I think you even remember when I first met her, that was really important to me to understand it and be like, oh, I'm not being a weak person because I have to rely on this. And then she also explained to me hormone therapy when it came to breast cancer, because her sister had breast cancer and she was very familiar in understanding it. And I didn't think that I was eligible for that. Like, yeah. And then I realized that it was okay. So she really changed that conversation for me.
Scrolling won't change your life, but subscribing just might. We're sharing real stories, hard-won wisdom, and unforgettable lessons that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Tap that button and stay connected to conversations that truly count.
Ira, you used to see people recognize Tamsen in New York for being on TV. Now women stop her because she is speaking up for them. What's that like to see, and what makes you most proud?
Well, I think it is, it's literally night and day for somebody who's a famous person, start with that, who was used to being recognized, as you said, because she was on TV, like that was sort of the beginning, middle, and end. Oh, I saw you on the news, you know, oh, you're Tamsen Fadal, you do the news. And it was kind of a beginning, middle, end. That was great. You got the validation, somebody saw me, and that was it. It's a very different conversation now. Literally every day, there's one or two women who stop us walking into a restaurant, going into wherever it is, in an airport, all the time. And it's an emotional thing. It's not, oh, you're Tamsen Fadal, it's so cool, I've met you. They come over to her and they thank her for what she's doing, because in many cases, and I'm not exaggerating, they say, you changed my life.
Yeah.
That's very different than, oh, I see you on the news and I'm seeing you now. It's literally a whole different ballgame. And what I admire about one of the things is that she is, and she's changing many women. For every woman that recognizes her, there's thousands that aren't sitting in that airport with us and that feel the same way. And that's what's really gratifying.
Wow.
Beautiful. So beautifully said. Tamsen, for a lot of women, menopause doesn't just bring hot flashes, brain fog, weight gain, mood swings.
It sounds fun.
What we like to call in our house the rage monster. See, he's laughing again. There you go. It brings this overwhelming feeling of being betrayed, kind of in some ways, by our bodies. So, how did you make peace with the changes that you were experiencing? You even think about the term menopause. It's about pausing or stopping something, when actually we never talk about what we are gaining. You know, if on the other side of that, you know, just the standing unabashedly powerful, you know, you're, you know, no more shrinking, you know, more standing in your truth. Is there any lifestyle shifts that helped you get to feeling empowered in this stage?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're on that one side of it, when you're having all of those symptoms, and then when I started on this conversation, it was like, there's 34 symptoms. And then somebody goes, no, there's actually 102. And I went, well, we can't catch up. But what I will say is this, I think now that I've kind of, I went past the day of menopause, and now I'm postmenopausal. Now it's been a few years. I definitely feel and I know we use word like empowered, but I definitely feel like this, like standing up straight, feel more like, hey, this is my someday. Like we've always said, like someday I'm going to do this or that. And I said, I'm living my someday today. Like every day is not perfect. I don't know exactly what I'm doing every day. And some days I make lots of mistakes, and some days are just incredible ones. But I know my purpose, and I'm real thrilled about it. And I do feel that strength that's coming from here somewhere, I guess maybe here somewhere, but I just feel a strength that I didn't feel before. I don't feel afraid. I don't feel very shrinking. I don't feel like all the things that they said you were probably going to feel at 54 years old. And so that's pretty amazing. somebody said to me, well, it's the golden years. And I was like, no, it's actually the bolden years. Like I've never felt so bold and, clear. I'm not smart about everything, but I'm clear at, what I don't know and then what I want to keep doing. And there's something really beautiful about that. Freedom of your thoughts, you know what I mean? Where I'm not so worried about
what people think or what they're going to say. Like, so
and they say everything.
Yes, yes, that's such a beautiful way to walk through life. And I think for us to be able to say we earned that.
Yes.
Ira, okay, you've talked about how Tamsen focusing on her own health and well-being has been a positive influence on you. What have you started to do because of her that has made the biggest difference?
Well, I think, look, what's that phrase? Every challenge is an opportunity. So what biology does to women doesn't happen in the same way to men. We're slowly, we're sort of slowly eroding away and the shoulder hurts. I'm just saying. And so what Tamsen has done is it's really a health issue. It's really it's sort of made me feel like however we age, whatever it is, that doesn't mean you get a free pass of not taking care of yourself. And so whether it's diet and exercise, it's all those things, but it's to make you feel better, and that we're all sort of fighting the aging process in different ways. But what a woman has to go through sort of hits you in the face. So you can either, shrink from it or grow from it. And most women, thanks to Tamsen, and more women are growing from it. So they become empowered on the other side. So while that, I don't think there's a man that I would know that would want to trade places to go through that. I think you can learn from it. And nobody's raising their hand.
Yeah, none of these men are looking at. I'm looking at all three of them. They're all like.
I can just tell. So nobody got it. Yeah. We're moving on. So because nobody wants to trade places, I think there are other things, and that has been the gift of I'm not just saying eat your spinach, but it's all of those things. It's not, I don't need to have veal parmesan every night. That's not a necessity anymore.
So he's actually not allowed.
Not just giving away some of our internal rules and regulations, but yes. And I think, and the bottom line is you do feel better.
And we've done things together, I think, more too, which has been nice. Like the pandemic did some of this too, but like working out together or walking together or making
I would never
sure
walk. I would never. I mean, I would work out in the gym every day, but that would be it. I'd go. I'm very regimented. I'd go. I'd do this. I'd do that. I'd do the next thing. Stretch for 8 seconds, and you're done. Now stretching's much more important, and she's taught me to be open-minded, if I begrudgingly or not, to try Pilates and to try other things that are not just what you do every day as a guy. That's not how you grow up.
Martin, will you go to Pilates with me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, soon.
So on behalf of all men, I'm sorry.
And Tamsen, I just love the fact that you've redefined your identity and talking about worth in midlife. Ira, I want to give you a big shout out because you, sir, have had an extraordinary career. Big syndication deals with shows like South Park, honored by the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame. Seeing your amazing wife and partner and love of your life reinvent herself, how has that influenced you as you've gone through your stages in your own career?
The issue we confront, that I'm saying men and who did the same career forever, is complacency. It's I know how to do it, I got it, this is what we do, and yet everything changes. Things are always changing. And so it's made me sort of embrace that change and more aggressively look at whether it was a few years ago, social media and other things, to sort of encompass that in what we're doing.
Yay!
It has been phenomenal watching the two of you. I love the laughter. I love the honesty. So listen, on a personal note, for my first ever meaningful conversation about menopause, I have learned...
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have learned a ton. I have to say probably the biggest thing that I've learned, though, is I candidly would think of menopause as something that, happens to a woman. But as I hear you speak about this, I realize it actually happens to a relationship. It happens to a family. It happens to the broader reaches of all of us. And therefore, we all must be aware, how are we good partners and husbands? And I think you said is that menopause is inevitable, but suffering is not.
Yeah,
Like the
Sharon Malone.
yeah.
the power of that statement, that idea that your own confusion and fear in that moment where Ira got on you to stop watching the Jason Bourne movie led to this incredible book and movement, and the two of you together, and hearing you, like my observation, has actually brought you closer together. And so perhaps menopause can be that thing that through the right coaching that you provide to couples can actually bring people together. And Ira, I'm so glad that you are the +1 in this conversation. And just how beautiful it is to see the two of you. And as we say here, thank you for living and sharing your legacy with us today.
Thank you.
What a wonderful conversation. I love this.
This has been absolutely great.
Fabulous.
Thank you for joining us. New episodes drop every Tuesday, with bonus content every Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment.